You guys have to let me know it's okay now.
It's okay. What's up with that?
It's a new Zoom thing, man. We have
You have
to
to provide consent for all things at this point.
so, including Zoom.
Alex, do I have your permission to do a slight introduction for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So,
okay.
okay, cool. So thank you for joining us today on Compound Performance Radio. Today we have with us Alex Effer. Alex, if you'd like to take a moment to introduce yourself, you can obviously do it way better than I can. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, man. No, I really appreciate you guys for having me on. I personally am not a huge fan of listening to a huge, long-winded introduction, so I'll try to keep it short. So my name's Alex Effer. I'm an exercise physiologist, strength conditioning coach out of Toronto, Canada. I'm founder of Resilient Training and Rehabilitation, which essentially I work with people one-on-one, in person, and now since COVID, virtually. Just working with people from a training perspective as well as a rehab perspective. And since COVID, because I had time, because I was pretty much apartment ridden because the intensity of how we closed down Canada, basically military in the streets and everything. I started an education company called Resilient Education, where I do essentially just talk about my model. And I've taken so many different courses over, I've been working for 12 years. Believe it or not, I look pretty young, but
you got a baby face. You got a bit of a baby face.
That's why I'm growing out the beard. I shaved my beard.
I see you.
Shaved my beard, and people were like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And anyway, so I've taken so many courses, and what I found over the years of taking these courses is, and as well as working in different contexts, working in a professional setting, semi-professional at the university level, and working rehab clinics. I found all the principles that are being taught through these multiple systems are very similar. And more specifically, what I've found and what I've grown to do is take these principles and not apply them, as we've discussed, in more of this lower level threshold, but using these principles to manipulate strength exercises as well, to not only improve range of motion, but if you need to restrict range of motion, doing so in the capacity that you're not doing harm, but you're improving performance. And so what I do is I just teach my model, and I consult with people one-on-one now, all over the world because of it. And I love doing it and want to keep on doing it. So that's a little bit about me, I guess.
I think we got to end this podcast right now, because you did just say you want to make better exercises and choose better strength exercises, and our 4 listeners just turned it off. So I think this is.
Well, we also, truth be told, just talked for an entire hour. So you guys missed out on a great conversation.
Literally a full hour.
And we got to give Alex back his time now.
Yeah,
he's got to get back to work.
So he's going to do his intro and then see you later. That's it.
That's it. Hopefully, you guys recorded some of the other stuff we're talking about, but
we got none of it.
Well, remember, now Zoom has to request your consent to record.
So let me know if you guys are recording or not. Yeah.
No, is someone who has taken your course, and definitely enjoyed it over the last year, I guess. I think it's been a time where a lot of us took a lot of, especially online education. Like, we offer it as well. You offer it, a bunch of our other friends offer it. And I really appreciated your approach of kind of what you just described, right? Is mixing different models and kind of drawing conclusions based off of similarities. And I think that's, that requires, a bit of, critical thinking and being able to understand nuance and again, that's something we just don't see, and I think that's super important. And the issue that Matt and I always have with that is it's not marketable at all.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Telling people it's I'm going to teach you how to make better decisions, rather than telling them I'm going to give you all the answers as I see them, is a very poor marketing choice. So why do you choose to be such a shitty marketer, Alex? I think is my first question for you.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't attract everybody, but I think for me, it was always that, honestly, I would always go to courses, and what people would always do, and even in my mentorship, as you know, Kyle, is everybody's asking, what exercise do you use? What assessment do you use? And it's just like, well, even in like the earlier iterations, like I think I do a lot more and I post some more exercises now, but in the earlier iterations of Evolve, it was very much like I didn't post many I didn't put many exercises in the lecture slides because I wanted people to understand my thought process of why I pick them based on how the body moves from a mechanical sense, from a neurological sense, and how I assess what I'm looking at, what kind of compensations are going on. And then the exercise, the programming came last, and it still does because of that reason. The exercises don't matter unless you understand what your assessment is telling you or how the mechanics of the body work. But even more important, and I know you guys talk about this all the time, but the context in which you're applying it. If I have somebody, and I don't work with many, I work with a couple, but it's definitely not my wheelhouse. If you have a power lifter who's lifting 600 pounds and, they have back stiffness, like it's going to not make a lot of sense if you just do a body weight exercise. Like you want to load that person up. You want to see why are they breaking down at 600 pounds or why are they breaking down at this level? And then you manipulate the exercise based on that. So what I'm saying is you need to understand the principles, then you need to understand the context. Your assessment is going to guide you, and your assessment doesn't have to be a toe touch, for example. It could be the actual movement that person is doing where they're feeling pain. That's your assessment. And from there, you're able to make a decision. I kind of like before, like the whole hour we were talking about before, I kind of made the example of like a back squat. Maybe what you do, if this person's feeling discomfort in the back squat, maybe you throw a couple front squats in the mix because you change the movement a little bit. It's still the same pattern, but you're just reinforcing maybe a different quality that they can't access because a back squat is very compressive in nature just because of the fact that the bar's on the back. You really, you need a lot of compression in order to perform the movement, which is good, but if it's causing you pain or it's causing you issues, like maybe you need to modify it a little bit. Maybe you just need to reduce the range. And so, yeah, but that message there is not very popular because, in our industry, it's like, what are the golden nuggets? What assessment do you use? What are the exercises you pick? It's like, and the word that everybody hates is it depends. But if you think from a principles-based first, then systems, then you're going to be able to make the decision. Can't tell you how many people message me on, because in my Evolve, and I always get called out. It's like, you must like feet or something. Because I always ask people to post pictures of their feet on the Slack group in Evolve to assess each other. And people think I'm weird for asking you guys to post my.
You can say that you just click and save every single one.
There is a market for that.
There's a market.
You could resell that.
You could resell those pics. That's a side hustle.
If you turn those into some NFTs, ooh man, you can make some Ethereum profits off of that. It'd be great.
Yeah. Every time I post it, I get some weird messages. That's all I gotta say. But in all honesty, it's like, whenever I post something like that, it's like I get messages like, hey, can you take a look at my feet? Like, what's going on? I'm like, okay, the reason why I ask people to do that is because I'm building a model week by week, not, hey, all your decisions are made on one assessment. All your decisions are made on one posture picture. It's like, no, it's the combination of everything. And again, if you are somebody who is lifting a lot of weight, compensation may be produced because you're lifting a lot of weight. So you're getting compressed because you are using a lot of load. You might need load to get out of all that compression. And when I mean by compression, I just mean like stiffness, right? Stiffness of the tissues. And so you may need something to decompress you.
I really like that distinction you make about compression being stiffness and just stiffness of the tissues as compared to the way that a lot of other people kind of look at the model of compression where it's more of an arbitrary static posture related thing, where if you see somebody who looks and presents this way, oh, that person is compressed. Well, it's like, how do you know if that person is actually compressed?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great question. And like, I think my mindset over it or on those topics has definitely evolved over time as well. The more I start to understand it, and this concept that osteopathy likes to use, compression and decompression. For me, what compression is it's definitely, with everything, it's multifactorial, or there's a lot of different components to it. But if you look at a tissue, or if I were to bucket it, compression is internal rotation movements, propulsion movements, like force production. Like the way that looks is like, the best example is a trap bar deadlift. The first mount of like the first pull of you breaking inertia to bring it off the ground, like that is max compression, max force production. So it's stiffness, it's internal rotation, extension, all that stuff. And it's just maximal force production. How that looks is if you have somebody that you're assessing and that person has a very hard time moving, they have a huge arch in their back, right? Like those are some ways that I can determine. I mean, they're just stiff everywhere. They have limited movement everywhere. And that could be good, right? Like that's good for somebody, somebody's got this huge valgus knee angle because, they lift heavy weights. But again, when they start feeling discomfort and they lose a lot of this movement variability, like for example, they're not able to lie down on the couch without this huge high threshold or sympathetic strategy that they're doing. I mean, compression is just force production. Now, in my opinion, what's evolved really, sorry, that's my computer, I think.
Mine used to do that all the time. So I had PTSD there, but I thought Matt was going to make fun of me.
You would have deserved it.
He would have called me a boomer for sure. For that.
I've disconnected my all my iMessages and stuff, like all my messages coming to the computer, because every time I'm on a call, it's all these dinging going on in the background. I mean, somebody messaging me. But for me, like the way that I look at it is that because compression is internal rotation, our body is going to compensate with compression by internally rotating somewhere because it can't produce that movement in the right place. So for example, what people will do if they're trying to produce internal rotation, they may produce internal rotation or compression of their lower back, which looks like lordosis, in order to try to create the internal rotation, because they can't create the internal rotation at their hip. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, muscle concentric contraction is compression, is internal rotation. The way that the erector muscles, for example, contract is more of like this inward contraction, which pushes the spine forward. Extension is also compression. So we have an extended lower back. The purpose of that is to shift our center of gravity forward on basically like where our laces are on our feet, in order to create force into the ground, because I can't do it at my hips. I can't do it at my foot. So I got to compensate somewhere. I may do knee hyperextension, which is also internal rotation, because that is extension. I'm extending my knee, not my hip. Or I'll extend my back. I'm going to extend my back because I can't do it at my hip. And so the way that I look at it is that I am looking at somebody move, for example, a deadlift, when they pull the bar off the ground. If they are arching heavy through their TL junction, which is like they're just below their shoulder blades, if they're arching through there to pull the bar off the ground, like to me, that's where they're creating internal rotation, because they can't create it through their hips, right? Now, obviously, as the load goes up, those compensations have to happen. They're bound to happen because it's so much weight. But if it's happening in people's warm-up sets, there's something going on. We need to improve. Maybe it's just cueing them properly. Like some people just don't know. But then you have somebody, again, who's just standing with this these hyperextended knees, this huge arch in their back, and they say, yeah, my back stiffens up every time I do a squat, or I load my knee a lot when I'm doing the squat, just the left knee or just the right knee. I'm not, or I get a lot of patellar tendon issues when I squat. It's like, okay, maybe we got to figure out a strategy that's better. But that's the way that I look at it. It's that it is internal rotation, which is force production. I can't produce force in the spot that I need to, so I'm going to find it somewhere else.
Well, that's something that we say a lot too. And very, very similar in the fact that, for us, we look at like those, we'll call them compensatory strategies, right? Like if it's a true biomechanical issue in relation to like gravity and just that person's own, body awareness and sensing their body in space, you're going to see that strategy in a body weight movement or under very submaximal load. Like if you only see the strategy under max loading, or we'll call it like max volume as fatigue sets in as like a stressor, like that's not a biomechanics issue. That's a programming issue. Like that's you trying to lift weights that maybe you're not prepared for, or you're exceeding your actual ability or capacity from a volume perspective. And we just need to chunk down your reps, or we need to give you less volume. It might even be volume over the course of a week, right? Over looking at a microcycle. And what we experience, like we get a ton of backlash for saying things like that, from a lot of our community. And it's just one of those things for us where it's like, if you only have one lens, if you only view things through biomechanics or movement or whatever you want to call it, it becomes that kind of like everything's a nail if you have a hammer thing. But you leave out the entirety of, again, complex systems and looking at all those other factors, whether it is intensity and loading, whether it is load placement, like you used again the example of a front squat instead of a back squat to reorientate center of mass, whether it is just too much volume and junk volume is causing too much fatigue in tissues, right? Yeah. Like there's just a lot of other things that, like I always used to joke with people, it's like when they were talking about like their lower back hurting, like I had a client way back in my training days in New York who had like lower back pain randomly for like 3 days. Yeah. And, we came in Monday. She's like, oh, my lower back really hurts. I don't know what I can do today. So we worked around it. We did some things. We hopped on some machines, pumped out some, got a little pump cycle in. On Wednesday, she comes in. She's like, I'm still a little stiff. Did the same thing. On Friday, she comes in. I'm like, how you doing? She's like, I feel great. I'm like, yeah. Okay. What happened? She's like, oh, I was just really constipated and I pooped.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay. Like,
man,
wow.
It's exactly like that. I mean, I think what people do, and it becomes emotional to people, I think, a way of thinking, a specific exercise, a specific assessment model. I'll tell you this, while understanding the mechanics of the body is extremely important and fundamental, I think I get a lot of my ideas from reading stuff outside the industry. But because of that, it's like, that's the kind of flexible or adaptable thinking that you need. You need to understand that the fitness or rehab domain translates to other domains. You read a business book, the models in which they use, again, it's complex systems.
Yep.
So that's going to apply to the body. I'm reading about physics. Like I literally bought a textbook about physics and hydraulics to understand.
You can't say the P word anymore in fitness, by the way. Like physics doesn't actually exist anymore.
No, you're not allowed.
It's all neurology. It's all that. It's all
if you say lever, you're going to get canceled, and I severely apologize.
Game over. And you pulled that on yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get a lot less. I think a lot of people are going to follow me after this podcast.
Well, we only get like 5 viewers.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
But in all honesty, it's like, that's what it is. It's like, there's so many, I mean, where were we before we learned any of this stuff? There are so many trainers and stuff out there who get really good aesthetic results with their clients and they know nothing.
And
so it's like, that's how adaptable the body is. The more information that we know, the better we can make exercise selection or programming. But we also can't go the other way where we're so paralyzed by it, where we are looking for things.
Yeah.
And like, that was my problem with some of the systems that I took, is after it, I felt like I was looking for these things.
Mm-hmm.
And every single person who walked in the door, it's like, that's you. Like, you are that, without even talking to them. Like, you are that pattern. Like, without even talking to them, I've already made up my mind. And I'm going to do these exercises. I don't care who you are, where you're coming from, what you're complaining about. You likely need this because, and it was almost like a threat to me in terms of like, I didn't want to have something threaten my knowledge. Like, I'm saying, like, this is like earlier, like in my career. And I was like, I'm going to do this because if I'm wrong, I feel like my ego is going to be attacked. And I think we all go through that where we're like, we know everything and everything like that. And then the more you learn, the more you realize you don't understand, and you're happy about that. It's like, I was on a call with somebody today and I said, if every time you leave this call, it was a one-on-one consulting another trainer, if every time you leave this call, you have more questions, I am happy because I have answered what you've asked, but because of it, you are gaining more questions, which means you are thinking and you are learning. And so when people attack me for, I've had so many people attack, like, it's so funny because,
people attack. Who do we need to go after, Alex?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what's going on here? Matt will make a meme today.
I will. I haven't posted in a little while. My meme.
Like, who do we need to go after?
Well.
I wasn't aware you were getting trolled by people. This is
no, but like, it's we have a mutual friend, Katie, and she told me when I first started posting, because I'm be honest, like a year ago, you would not see a post. Like, I think I've spoken to Kyle over the last few years, but I never made a post.
Yeah, you didn't put out a lot of content pre-COVID. I mean, you were probably busy actually working in person too. So there is that.
No, I hated. I absolutely hated posting. But I think there was a part of it that was like, it was uncomfortable because I was, afraid of being judged from my perspective. Mm-hmm. But then as I started putting it out there, I'm like, oh, it's good. And then as you start putting stuff out, people troll. And so I reached out to Katie. I'm like, do you get a lot of trolls, like people talking shit, like acting like DMing you? And she's like, yeah, all the time. Like, if people start trolling you, you're doing something right. And I'm like, all right, okay. Okay, so I'm doing something right.
Pretty much.
And
that's pretty true.
Yeah.
It is. And so and people start commenting and I'm like, yeah, like, I'm happy. I don't feel like I'm being attacked. I'm like, look, you don't agree with me? Great. Have a constructive conversation and say, hey, that was a great point. This is my thought process. I don't necessarily agree. It's like, okay, great. What background are you coming from? What context are you working in? Are you working in a professional athlete context in like, NBA or in baseball, whatever, like MLB? It's like, I might not do the assessments I do with my clients in that setting because it's a totally different context, totally different situation. Yeah. No different than you guys are going to have a much better or much different assessment than I would. Better probably, but much different assessment.
That's not true.
It's better for the specific context that I work with.
Well,
that Kyle works with.
I will also say, people are always shocked. Matt and I, even though we
have different assessments.
We don't assess the same. We have very different assessments because we train different demographics too.
Right. Yeah. And your assessment for your population is significantly better than my assessment is for your demographic.
Yeah, that's just it. Like, for some reason, I started in this industry wanting to work with athletes. That's it. Just like anybody else coming in this industry. But because initially when I was in school, I wanted to be a physio, I'd done a lot of, or you guys call it physical therapist, I did a lot of clinical hours and like internship and stuff like that. And, it wasn't for me. Like, I wanted to do a little more like training stuff. But for somehow, because I did all that, I became more of like this rehab person. Although I'm like, I wanted to do rehab, but look like I lift, so that, like how you get some therapists and they look like, it's like, yeah, you've never touched a weight in your life. Like, how are you telling this person that they're able to go back to the gym? Like, I wanted to have a little bit of credibility to say, hey, I lift, not like power lifters, but like I have a little bit of size to me and I understand how the body works. Like, okay, like I can kind of work both ends a little bit. But I just started getting a lot of like rehab people because it just so happened to be that. And so now it's like I'm a little bit more in this rehab realm of things, especially my in-person clients. The reason why my name is Resilient is because the majority of my clients to start with were in pain, and now I just train them. They're like, I know you're not going to hurt me because you helped me get out of pain. So now let's train. Let's get some fitness. Let's get some strength. Get some power. I want to play golf. I want to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. But because of that, like, it's important for people to know that even like through Evolve, like my assessment in Evolve is very much influenced by online training now and online rehab, because and if people taking it, like they'll see that I put people's feet on the wall, like for doing like a hip flexion. But the only reason why I did that was because I would test hip flexion and people kept on rolling and cheating because you ask these people, hey, do you feel your feet? It's like, no, I feel my quads. And where are their quads? Their quads are their bicep, because they don't even know where the hell their quad is, right? So I can't rely on what they tell me. So I've got to put this constraint on where they put their foot on the wall. And so they're locking themselves into place as they do a hip flexion. Yeah. And so even the Evolve but now what I do is, my assessment through Evolve and virtual is the same in person, because it really helped me kind of filter in my assessment a little bit. But the point is my assessment is the way it is because of the context that I work in. When I was working with athletes, I did a bunch of other things. I would do vert testing. I would do single leg bounding and stuff like that, because I was working with a soccer team, or I was working with, a hockey team. And like, those were things that the coach wanted. The coach had this mentality. And so my point is, like, all these things have to be considered when you are assessing somebody. There's so many different elements than just compression, than just compensation. Like, compensation can be good. I use compensation with people. It's like, you don't have good hip flexion and it doesn't cause pain. It's just stiffness. But so the right hip is really stiff. The left hip is more stiff. I'm going to take you past that 90 degrees that you have to roll your hip the other side to pick up range of motion. Like, I do that. Like, I play around with compensation as long as it doesn't hurt them in like low level. Right. But it's just important for people to understand that, like, there isn't one way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it, and you have to be adaptable. And the more different messages you hear from people, the better, as long as you have this system based on principles, that the skeleton of or this frame of thinking, so that you can listen to a bunch of different people, but you're not throwing the baby out of the bathwater every time you hear a new model. Do you know what I mean?
That sounds really hard. Can you just give me a checklist with yeses and nos?
I'm gonna need like a step-by-step guide.
Yeah,
on how to do, like kind of a, if you see this, do that.
Yeah, can you just break it down a little bit easier, where it's an if-then model, and I don't have to actually think about anything or actually look at my client at all, and I can just fill things out.
Yeah.
You know what exactly. It's like, I'll just give you an algorithm to think about how I want you to think. But
that'd be great.
Yeah. This is how you should think. Don't think any other way, please. You know what I mean?
Well, like my
no,
favorite.
No, please. Just do it.
If you make that algorithm and license it out to people for like $99 a month, you would never have to work ever again.
Yes. Yeah. Just a forewarning. I'm Canadian, so I say sorry and please a lot. So just just in case it slips up,
that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I think. Well, and the funny thing to me is always like the same people that way back when I started training people that that used to just like okay, you sit all day, so we're basically going to just foam roll your hip flexors, foam roll your lats, foam roll your chest, and foam roll your calves, and then we're going to stretch those things, and then we're going to work on activating, quote unquote, obviously, your glutes and your scapular retractors and depressors, your rhomboids, your traps, all those good things are now the same people that just say, cool, so we're going to do a 90-90 hip lift, we're going to do a bear position breathing, a lazy bear to start. There's no way you're ready for an active bear. And then we're going to give you an adductor drawback too. So just to make sure that we kind of hit that unilateral, right? And get a little rotation in there. Everybody wants an algorithm, and I think when you start looking at these new systems, that same thing with FRC. Okay, we're going to do shoulder cars and hip cars, and we're going to do some internal rotation for, pails and rails and run all those things. And no matter what system you're talking about, people are going to be people. And most people, regardless of industry, are inherently lazy, because that's also just homeostasis acting out in action, right?
Yep.
So when you start looking at these things, it's like the same people right now that are making fun of the SMR and the inhibit, stretch, and activate are these same exact people that are now just giving everybody they train the same 3 respiration based drills, and they think it's something different. And that blows my mind to kind of watch play out on social media, because we just sit back and watch it. We're just like, wow, the industry is cyclic, but not always in the way you expect, but it's very cyclic in how people act and how the tribes are formed and how the group thing starts.
That the original stuff that they were doing with foam rolling the hip flexors and the lats, and then doing some scapular retraction work, also probably takes less time than the other stuff that they're having him do.
Exactly. And they have to think more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Doing a breathing exercise, you got to think a lot. It's here's 10 different cues to think about while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Then breathe. It's they're holding their breath.
But only breathe this way. But
it must be like this.
This type of breathing.
If you do it the other way, it invalidates the entire exercise.
If you open your mouth too much, you'll actually get the reverse effects, and you will turn into a black hole and implode upon yourself.
I will go get the duct tape. Don't make me go get it, Sharon.
Yeah. Don't do that. Oh, did you lift your back? Okay, you just lost it.
You got to restart.
You got to do everything again. But you know what? I'm gonna be honest. When I first would take these, when I was young and dumb, I would do that. I would okay, take this system. Great. I got to just use their exercises. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I did that is because I didn't understand it.
Yeah, it's how it's.
I
it's
didn't
just,
get it.
You learn. You need the information in front of you, and it's definitely it's super interesting, because it's we get flack, and people are like, oh, you're anti this and anti that, and it's like, no, I'm actually not. I'm not anti any of these systems. But I am anti dumbass.
Yeah.
You're kind of in that group for me right now.
Yeah. Talk to me in 3 years when you forget about the system and you're going to be preaching it again.
The next shiny object pops up, and then we can have a conversation about it, or, as we're seeing now, it's Matt and I always joke. It's like SMR is 2 years away from circling back.
Huge comeback soon.
It's gonna make a comeback. We're gonna come full circle, because I'm already seeing ASLRs and Bretzels being used, but with breathing, and I'm like, FMS is back. This is coming back. Great. It's all coming back. Charles Weindroft is going to be making a comeback. Greg Cook's going to be out here on podcast. Awesome.
It's so funny though. I will say this. I in my new mentorship, in this mentorship right now, the one's going through, I literally put a whole 2 slides of how I love foam rolling.
See, it's
not in that extent where I'm like, okay, foam roll last, foam roll rhomboids, foam roll your entire body before we get started. It's not like that. It's more based on this, that compression I was talking about. It's hey, what I may want to do is I can use the foam roller to change the shape of your joint, right? If I'm trying to gain internal rotation, I need the pelvic inlet to close, right? Or I need to internally rotate the pelvis. I can do that by getting you to lie down on the foam roller. And then that's going to close that inlet, because the glute med can't do it by itself. So I may use the foam roller to do it. Or, hey, you have this muscle that's very stiff. If I take a foam roller, that now becomes the compressive force. So everything underneath it needs to expand. So maybe I need to foam roll a VL, but just the VL for a second. Or I put, again, the foam roller at the top of the hip, right underneath the belt line, and just get you to lie on that for a minute or something like that in between sets of what you're doing to reshape the pelvis, and then that VL or that patellar tendon or whatever it is, that's not getting overloaded because I've reshaped the joint. But that's the way I'm looking at it. It's not like let's foam roll everything. And like, so that's why I'm like, I love foam rolling. I actually don't mind the Theragun.
Oh God!
No, I'm telling you,
we're hanging out now. We're done.
He's a shill.
Yeah,
we can. What's your discount code?
Yeah,
we can.
No, like for me, it's like, look, only because the clients that I work with, like not like the strong people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the clients that I work with, like some of these CEOs. You ask them, they're standing there. You say, hey, where do you feel the weight on your feet, on your toes, your heels? They have to look down because they don't even feel their feet. Yeah. It's like, maybe I give them, it's like, hey, you have that drill that someone told you to get? Good. Take that drill and drill something so you can sense something because you can't feel anything. So it's like, how am I going to get you to do a squat and say, hey, do you feel the right muscles working? You can't even feel where your feet are. So it's like, take this, drill yourself for a second. Do you feel that tissue? Do you feel what happens after it? Yes. Okay, great. Now you have some body awareness. Let's go do some stuff. Like that's the context I'm talking about. But again, it's like anybody who takes my mentorship or like anything that or listens to me talk, like I don't throw out anything. Like everything is good to a certain extent at the right time, under the right conditions, in the right context. But you have to be adaptable in your thinking. It's like, okay, this is when I would use this. This is when I would use that. You have to be flexible in it. The people who are like, no, this is the new thing. It's only this. If you disagree with it, then you're an idiot. You don't get it. It's like, no, you're an idiot because in a year from now, you're going to say that thing was stupid. You know, it's like,
yeah, but that doesn't matter because then the next thing that you're onto will still be stupid to that person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a never-ending cycle.
It's a race against.
Yeah.
You just have to stay in front of it a little bit.
You'll be dumb for the rest of your life, even though like the 2 years after you say something about it, people will be like, yeah, no, this is right. And this is what I'm doing now. And I totally didn't steal this from anybody a year ago.
Exactly. And just like you guys do, like I've taken all these people who argue with me, I've taken the same course that they argue with me about. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't useful. This is how I apply it in a useful way because I can't get away with spending 20 minutes on my back doing some type of hip rotation or breathing exercise. My clients are going to go tell me to F myself. You know what I mean? Mm. Or I guess I can say fuck myself on this podcast.
Oh, yeah. You say whatever you want.
Yeah.
We're good.
But do you know what I mean? So it's like, but hey, I can apply some of those principles during a squat, during a lunge, during a row. It's like, hey, you need to do a right arm reach? Great. I'll get you to do a right chest press instead. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's like I can get the same thing because I understand the principles. You can manipulate anything.
You're just making too much sense, man. We're gonna have to
not allowed.
It's interesting because even like going back to the foam rolling and stretching, like I told a client on this last weekly check-in to foam roll his hip flexor and do a couch stretch in the evening if it felt tight, right? I was like, yeah, he's like his prior trainer was having him do that and he enjoyed it. And he's like, hey, can I like still do this? I'm like, does it make you feel better? And he's like, yeah. I was like, fucking do it, man. Like I'm pro you feeling good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily care how it happens. I'm not so stuck in my ways that these things are now like obsolete. I want you to do it before a session all the time? Maybe not, but can you do it when you're watching TV in the evenings? Like, yeah, like Netflix and stretch. Like, I don't care at all if that's what you want to do.
You better watch out, man. You sound like a psychotherapist right there.
I do
like neurology is all. There's no biomechanics there at all.
There's
like,
none,
hey,
bro.
Yeah, it's like, hey, he gets hip flexion because he likes what he's doing. Oh, wow. He feels safe. He feels comfortable. No way. There's got to be some biomechanical explanation to that.
I will say probably like 3-4 months ago, I had a quote unquote functional neurologist, whatever that is. It's a couple of weekend courses from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Tell me that his 4 3-day seminars were more valuable than my 2.5-year master's program in psychology.
Yes.
And that psychology was only for people not smart enough to understand neurology. So maybe I'm finally graduating up to that level.
You've almost pre-qualified for that 1 3-day course.
Yes, I can get it. I can almost get into level 1.
Yeah.
If I pay them $1,000, I will be admitted to the course.
I think you also have to display the proof of your master's, so like they know that you're ready to do it. Yeah.
Show me the certification, please.
Yeah, it's actually I'm gonna actually get a new tattoo. Right, it's a chest piece.
Yes.
It's literally just going to be I can just like pull it down for people.
I got
it. New trend.
So nobody forgets. It'll be a killer at the pool this summer.
But here's the thing. Like, on the alternative is that you also do have, and this is going to throw some, fire out there, but you also have people who take one of these courses and now they are becoming the authority teaching everybody.
Oh yeah.
And that's even worse because now you have somebody who doesn't understand something, who is now teaching it to people who are supposed to be caring for other people, whether that's in a pain setting or a fitness setting, because to me, it's crazy that the fitness industry is not regulated.
Not
because
at all.
Weight can do a lot of damage to people. It's like the person who is pushing heavy weight overhead who should have no right to do it, and you have people getting them to do it. It's like, I can't tell you how many people when I was working in a clinic were broken because of certain type of systems out there doing 100 snatches and 100 cleans in a session. Do you know what I mean?
I think we all know what that system is.
Oh yeah.
As soon as you said 100 reps, everybody knew.
Exactly. But that's the thing. It's like, and Kyle said it, like, man, I didn't start posting anything until, last year. Like pre-COVID, I didn't start posting anything. And the reason why is because I wanted to make sure that if I posted something, that I understood it. I spent 10 years learning shit and thinking about it every day, failing with clients and getting success with clients. And understanding systems, getting fully immersed into different systems, so I understood it so that I would have questions about it rather than taking it over a weekend and then that becomes now my identity. And if anybody else doesn't think that this is the way to think, then they're an idiot. They don't know what they're talking about. And so for me, I hesitated, and I don't think a lot of people know that, of like why I took so long to post. It was 2 reasons. One, I felt uncomfortable personally. Like, I don't want people, like, I wasn't, confident enough, I guess, to put it out to the world, because there are so many people out there who are like that, who are like, this is the way, that's it. Like, there's nothing else. And the other thing is, when I was putting stuff out there, like, if people, especially if people were paying me to learn, I wanted to make sure that I had some results. And if they were struggling with concepts, that I could say it in a different way because I understood it enough and I had actually gained the reps to do it. So to me, I think there are people who present information who don't really understand. And that is pretty scary to me because the internet has no regulation. So anybody who lives in a basement, living with their parents, can post anything and talk shit, but they've never really done anything with it. It's like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, well, that's the problem that we run into as well, like for people who have careers pre-social media, it's like, according to like the internet, like my career started 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like I got to teach you something about social media, Alex.
Yeah, like
Your first post is when your career began.
Your career started, and you weren't posting up stories at these seminars. So I don't know that you went.
You never went them.
Yeah. You didn't get you didn't get reposted in their stories. So I don't.
You've also never posted like an individual in-person client in person. So you've obviously never worked with a person before.
No, exactly. If
It's
you didn't
all
post it didn't happen.
Exactly.
It didn't happen. Yeah. But it's so funny because, like, I'll say this. Some of my clients, I literally have to sign an NDA or something like that to work with them. That's exactly why I don't post any pictures of them, because I have a lot of high-profile in-person clients that I work with that I literally cannot mention a name that I work with them, and let alone a picture. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's why, like, the people that I work with, like, I literally cannot post. And because of that, I've kind of been ingrained to not do it. And so for me, it's like it's just, for me, it's like, if you're presenting the information, you don't understand it, maybe you should go understand it first, or you should give the person credit to who you've learned it from and say, hey, you want to find out more? I'm just putting these pieces together. Go ask that person. Because it's like, no.
You can't do that.
I'm just gonna make a post with all of your information and it's mine. Like,
exactly.
Fuck you, Alex. We're not doing that.
Yeah. It's like, you don't know shit, man. I made that post better.
This is my post. I use Canva. We're done.
But then it's like, who the hell am I? Like, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter, but like from a follower perspective, like, I'm tiny. Like, I'm a tiny, like, pimple in the world. Not even a pimple. I'm a fucking grain of sand, right? And like, but then you have these people who've got 50,000. It's like, oh, they've got 50,000 followers. They must know their shit. It's like, no. It's just Instagram at a time. If you posted something, everybody went to you because there was nobody posting anything. It was new. The algorithm was different.
That's my favorite argument when people start talking about stuff, especially in like the educated fitness community.
Yeah.
Because, like, they'll start talking about stuff and they're like, well, this person says this thing and they've got 40,000 followers. I'm like, do you know like Kim Kardashian has like 70 million. Do you think she's a good authority on anything?
Should she like run for president or something?
I was just going to say.
Yeah. She's got a lot more than anybody else does.
She can just her world leader. Like,
is she right on all of her opinions?
Yeah. I heard Kanye wants to run.
Yeah.
He's worth $1 billion now. He must know something about this.
Yeah.
You know, he must know something.
Yeah, it's like Jen Selter, the original Instagram booty girl, has 12.4 million followers, which means that her information is therefore more valid than anybody else's.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just unbelievable. And then look, some of the smartest people, you know, that I know as well, they're not on Instagram, they're not on Facebook. It's because they're actually doing shit.
They're doing things.
Like these people who are on Instagram all the time. Like, how the fuck are you guys on Instagram all the time? Like, I'm like, literally, for me to post, it's like in between clients, I got to do it the night before. And I'm like, shit, I'm in my car. I got to type. Shit, I got to put it out there. And then I do it. And then I'm like, okay. And I posted my story and I'm like, hey, great. Posted. Got it.
Done. I'll answer questions in 12 hours.
Exactly. Yeah.
People are like, why aren't you responding to me, Alex?
Exactly. It's insane. So it's like, but like, I don't have time to, like, the people who troll me. I'm like, look, man, I don't have time to deal with you. It's like, what do you want? Like, tell me your opinion and let me see, you know, like, and look, if I'm wrong, awesome. I want to have a conversation. Don't talk shit. Because I gave you an opinion, and that's what everything is.
It's all any of this.
It's an opinion based on the environment you work in and based on your education.
Yeah.
All of us have taken different educations. We've taken different bachelor degrees. We've grown up with different values, maybe similar, but different family experiences, and that's going to shape the way we think. And so that's why it's good to hear from multiple people's perspective, but your perspective, like, all the shit that we know right now is going to be wrong. So it's like, why are you trying to, you know, protect it as if it's like your identity and it is the thing that is going to last forever. It's like, no. It's like, be adaptable. Don't talk in absolutes, because when you talk in absolutes, you sound like an idiot.
You're always wrong.
Always wrong. Always wrong. So it's like you just have to be flexible in your thinking. Take other people's perspectives with a grain of salt. Instead of saying that's wrong, think about a way that says, hey, why would they think that way? I can't tell you how many times I walk around the gym and people are doing stupid shit, and I'm like, you know what? That gave me an idea.
Yeah.
You know, it was like they feel something. Mm-hmm. They got some benefit out of it somehow. They must be doing stuff. And then all of a sudden you see that stuff come up in courses, because it's like, hey, they were onto something. Like, they just found a way that the body moves that felt good to them. And now that's crawling. I used to see people do crawling in the gym. I'm like, that's stupid. That looks dumb. Like, I'm going to go there and lift, I'm going to do trap bar deadlift. I'm going to do something else. But then I'm like, actually, you know what? Bear crawls are actually not bad. Like, they actually feel pretty good, especially if I've lifted or done enough high stimulus days. I just need something to decompress me a little bit. I need something to just, like, movement variability or whatever you want to call it.
But you can learn how to crawl for $1,500.
Exactly.
It only takes 2 days.
And it's got some weird ass name to it too.
Yes.
Animal Flow.
Yeah.
I'm going to name we don't have zero of those people follow any of us. So
yeah.
And I've taken Animal Flow.
So have I.
Yeah.
You would not believe
amazing.
it, but I have. And I was the biggest person in that room by probably 100 pounds.
Alex, you've never met Matt in person, but he is a 2D ipsilateral walker. If you can picture Matt
just walking down the street.
If you can picture Matt doing Animal Flow.
I did that, and they were like surprised that I could actually do anything. I'm like, guys, why do you think this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't judge me. Just
judge me. Yeah.
But that's it, man. It's like, I you don't want to see me in that thing. Like, I do any type of rolling and I look like I'm a square wheel rolling, you know? So it's like, but even though I tell people like, hey, we should be rolling. It's like, I'm trying, but my body's super compressed.
Oh, somebody talked shit to me the other day. I was like, there's a reason I'm doing this in my training.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
It's because I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not a good mover. I would like to be one, though.
My favorite thing is when you post something and people are like, well, why are you only trap bar deadlifting instead of barbell? You've never done a barbell. It's like, I just like it better.
I just
leave me alone.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I get so many people who are like, I don't see you posting anything about like how much you lift or whatever. It's like, dude, a gym hasn't been open here since January last year. I'm not able to do it. You know,
I am working out in my living room.
Exactly. I got 50s and that's it. Like, you don't want to see my dingy ass apartment. You know?
Yeah, it's like I'm working out in my living room for 15 months.
Exactly. But like for me, it's like I don't disregard anything. I try to find a way where at the right time it's applicable. Like, lifting heavy load, that's great. There's a difference between health and performance. Lifting heavy weight for a competition, it's not supposed to be healthy. You're supposed to feel stiff because you're trying to limit variability to try to produce a movement. It's like you see people who are doing like the powerlifting benching. They arch their back really heavy. It's like, oh, they got a huge arch in their back. It's like, yeah, because they're trying to minimize how far the bar goes.
Yeah,
But
it's a strategy.
It's a strategy, but then you see people in the gym who aren't power lifters who are like, hey, that's the way that I saw that guy bench or that girl bench because they used a huge arch in their back. It's like, well, no, they're doing it because it's a sport. It's like, you wouldn't play basketball like a hockey player. You know, you wouldn't throw skates on to go play basketball. It's a sport, but strength training came from powerlifting and bodybuilding, which are sports in nature. And so we just have to understand that that's what it is. And so if you want to lift heavy weights for a competition, amazing. That's a sport. That is not, that is performance. Health is about restoring range of motion. There's a time and place for that as well, but it shouldn't be the entire time. you know.
You're getting really close to calling powerlifters athletes, and I don't want you to cross that line. Because Matt's
come back from that.
Matt's over here grinning. He's waiting for it.
Yeah.
You can't come back from calling powerlifters athletes.
He's just hopeful. He's hopeful. He wants to be an athlete for a day. He's like, Alex.
Exactly.
He's like, Alex said we're athletes.
He said I was an athlete.
He said I'm an athlete.
You just call me an athlete?
But I think that's a really important point though that you brought up about powerlifters and just training for variability and things like that in general, where the heavier that you're lifting and the closer you are to competition, the less you want. And the more that having like a higher degree of compression or stiffness and things like that becomes a good thing. And it's one of those things where like nowadays we seem to have a large group of people who are more and it's, again, this is not talking shit about any specific group of people, but it's people who are just more concerned with validating their own model than actually looking at the context of the person who's sitting in front of them and that they're working with.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point, it's like when if you're a power lifter and you need to do bench or you need to do squat or something like that, do you want rotation in that movement? No, that is a reduction. That is useless energy being produced when you need all the energy to go towards not getting crushed by the bar.
Yeah, not dying.
Exactly. Like
don't die.
Yeah, by like I said before, like by inherently holding a barbell, you are limiting the degrees of freedom and the amount of variability or planes of motion that you could produce. That's why it's a good thing. It's good because that allows you to produce high amounts of force. More force is compression, as I started with. It's like it's more internal rotation, it's more compression. That is a good thing. To do it all the time is not a good thing because then you have only one strategy. The purpose of like, if you look at like an athlete, like like a hockey player or something like that, it's like, or like basketball, whatever it is. It's like early in the off season, like what do they always say? They're like, yeah, we need to do more or higher volume, lower intensity. It's like, what's the purpose of that? To improve range of motion. Great. You're trying to improve health qualities that they didn't get while playing their sport because they narrowed their variability in order to be successful at their sport. But now we need to introduce a little bit of that so that we don't just constantly keep on driving them into the same pattern because eventually something will break or they're going to not improve. They're going to plateau because they've maxed out on their current strategy. So what we do is we give them a little bit of variability by doing something else that they're not used to. Maybe that's a split squat or that's single leg or that's a single arm exercise. And then their plateau gets pushed because now they have multiple different strategies and, with that additional strength to be able to move the bar with more weight. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a spectrum and it always is, but I think where people get confused is the thing that health and performance are the same thing and they're really not. You have to focus on performance sometimes, health on other, and then on other times, right in the center where you're producing good amount of force. Maybe that's your 75% or 80% 1 rep max for, not 1 rep, but you know what I mean? Like for like 5 or 4 reps or whatever it is. And then on the next day you do a high intensity. We're only doing 1 rep at a time, right? But even just that higher volume is going to provide you with more movement variability in nature because it becomes more decompression, more expansion, if you want to call it that, like however you want to call it. You increase range of motion because you're not using as much load. And so just that alone by manipulating the rep ranges throughout the week can improve health qualities. So it's like, you don't have to change the exercise completely if you don't want to, because too many novel exercises did not allow for adaptation. Yeah. So I don't know, like I'm kind of just like, no, I'm just kind of going on a tangent right now.
But that's also something that we talk about a lot is, changing the parameters in the application of a singular exercise is variability, right? You don't always have to increase complexity because, like you just said, complexity is not scalable all the time, right? Like, and typically the more complex you make something, the less output you're able to put into it.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have to lower intensity, you have to lower volume, unless you're those people who do 1,000 snatches for a time. And that would be, and that's also why those people sometimes have to go see you after long droughts of that. But that's usually asking for trouble, right? If you try to increase complexity and intensity at the same time, doesn't usually work. If you try increasing complexity and volume at the same time, it doesn't usually work well. In any system that you ever talk about, the most complex structures break down first under stress. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're talking the economic markets or if you're talking cellular structures.
Yeah.
Complexity breaks down first, right? And that's something that the industry doesn't understand well. Which is wild to me because it's pretty basic science. But that would be
because it requires effort to think about it. It's linear thinking that we have to go against, mixed with confirmation bias. It's so funny because at one point I wanted to as you were talking, I was thinking of like anti-fragile, right?
Yeah.
Or anti-fragile. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm like, when I name my company Resilient, I'm like, shit, am I making people adaptable or I'm making them resistible to breaking, which is still stiffness and not adaptable. And I'm like, damn, maybe I should name my company Anti-Fragile or something, right? But that's what it is, right? It's like too much variability, an issue. Too little variability, an issue. You need to, it's kind of like the parabola or the bell curve, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's the optimal position of that curve is different for a power lifter, different for somebody who's never trained. You know what I mean? Like you may go like that whole curve can be lifted up and shifted to one direction potentially. And people don't think like that. They think, hey, we've got this one curve. It's stationary. It's fixed. You're on one end or you're the other. It's like, no. I can take the whole curve I want to and I can shift it over to one side.
Yeah. Well, this is what it kind of ends up becoming is like, if you look at the way that people are when the best example that I could use is buying a house, right? One of the best reasons and the biggest reasons why people do not buy a house is because of wall color of paint. Because they don't have the imagination to go, oh, I can just paint this wall gray or whatever color else that I want. So it would be the same thing for like the bell curve where people look at it and they're like, well, the table says that it doesn't move. It's like, yeah, but it's not printed on a piece of paper in reality. You can just shift it wherever you want. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's a group of people, and it's people in general whose lack of ability to critically think and visualize and understand concepts at a conceptual level. They understand concepts and the ability that they can regurgitate them almost perfectly to somebody, but they have no actual understanding of those same concepts and how to actually apply it and how to actually look at it through a lens of critically, while they're critically thinking about it, to see how they can slide it back and forth, which just blows people's minds when they meet somebody who can.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, I think it's just exactly
everybody on the internet says Matt's stupid. I just don't understand why. It's like,
damn, Matt.
I lift weight. I stupid. Okay, we're back to normal now, guys. Yeah, I make joke. That's it. I comic relief. That's it. That's where we are now.
I make me.
Yeah.
You had that written down somewhere. You just had to say it, so you had to research a little bit.
Kyle actually texted it to me. I just read it. Yeah,
we got to get you some street cred here,
Matt. No, but you're exactly right. I mean, it's we look at something in one lens at face value, and we don't say to ourselves, "Hey, we can break down that wall and make that space bigger." You know what I mean? Or we can, as you said, like you can paint the room a different colors, can have a different feel altogether.
Yeah.
And like the whole room will change.
Yeah.
No different than a thought process.
Right.
Your entire thought process can change by changing the coat of paint, right? Because you're seeing things from a different perspective. You're seeing a room differently. And so But that requires a lot of mental energy to think in different ways. Some people, it's harder for some people to think those ways.
Some people
But
literally cannot do it.
some people can't do it, and that's fine. But don't talk shit about other people
Yeah.
who just because you can't do it and you're not adaptable, you're not flexible, and you want to just read one thing, and so you're just constantly, instead of improving your knowledge, you're just feeding your own confirmation bias because I'm going to read one topic because I'm good at that topic. I'm not going to diversify my knowledge at all. And for me, it's like I told you, I'm reading a physics book, I'm reading a psychology book, and I'm reading some book about trees or something, like, some weird ass shit. No, it's called like The Hidden Life of Trees or something like that. But you know what I mean? Like random books, but like what you do is they're all written by scientists. Scientists think by testing a bunch of different theories, seeing how it works. And so I'm reading it to understand how these people think rather than the information necessarily. You will pick up information, but how much information are you going to get from a book that's like a physics book, that's textbook? I think you're not going to get a lot, but you're going to read how these people are thinking. I have the what's the word? Like the benefit or the luxury of working with people, or I'm just lucky that I get to work with clients who are very successful in their own domains, from a business standpoint, from family standpoint, whatever it is. And I literally ask them open-ended questions to hear how they respond and how they think about topics. It's like, hey, did you see what Bitcoin did? Did you see what happened with like oil industry? Like Matt's getting excited. I mentioned crypto.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to get so many DMs that are like, what's the best new coin to buy? And I'm just going to tell you all it's Doge and Shiba Inu.
Exactly.
Leave me alone.
Yeah. But that's a perfect example of people who aren't thinking. They listen to what a guy like Elon Musk thinks. They're like, oh, I'm getting that one because he said it. It's like, well, and then all of a sudden he's like, hey, I have $1 billion of crypto. I'm just going to sell it now because I just made $3 billion in a month. And then everything crashes. It's like, it's all like everything, everybody's perception is weighted on one person's thought. And that is what's happening in our industry too. It's like, you got to listen to how people, people who you want to be like, or people who are successful in their own domain, you want to listen to how they communicate. Not necessarily the words that they say, but how they communicate, because you're not going to remember their words. You're going to remember how they respond, how they kept cool during stressful conditions. Like, for example, and I'm not trying to blow air at my ass, but like I could have done what other people were doing, which was other people were doing. Like I could have at the beginning of COVID said, fuck, all of my clients are gone. I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix until I can go back to them. Or I can keep myself productive and I can write down my model on a piece of paper and say, hey, is this worth something? Or, does it clarify any confusion I have in my own head? Should I be posting about this, or do I not think that's going to benefit other people? It's like, so for me, it's like, read not because of face value, not because of what the words are saying, but how the author is writing, how they think about things. You will pick up a couple things because they will feed into the question that you may have at the time you're reading it, or filling a confirmation bias that you already have. That's how you're going to remember it, through association, right? But I encourage everybody to, like, when they read something or they listen to somebody, think about why they are thinking that way rather than what they're saying. And then you can't regurgitate what they're saying. Like, you've solved that problem because they're not listening to the words. But when you see people regurgitate things, you now know they can't think for themselves, right? Like, that's your bullshit detector right there.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
But Kyle on the internet said that this is the way that it's done. So
Exactly.
Are you going directly against him?
Exactly. No, that happens.
It's not a podcast until one of our dogs says something.
My dog is on a walk right now. So.
Mine's been chewing on my desk for like the last 10 minutes. Yeah. I keep like trying to push him away, but he's very persistent.
That desk is gonna fall. The leg's gonna be chewing out.
He's a little monster, I have to say. No, I think that's kind of, I mean, that's really a great closing statement. And we've had you for 2 hours at this point. Only an hour recorded, but for 2 hours. So I think that kind of the next thing is just, again, talking about, where people can find you, where people can find your information, your courses. I'll say it again. I've taken Alex's course. It's amazing. It's definitely one that I highly recommend for coaches and clinicians if that's your thing, because you will get a lot of good information, a lot of perspective, and unlike a lot of information we see online, a lot of context, built around those things. And it will force you to actually think about your own models, your own systems, who you're applying them to, and so on.
I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah. So, and everything that we've talked about is essentially what my thought process for Evolve is, and that is, it's not giving you all the answers. It will give you answers in terms of answering some of the questions that you may have about the things you've learned or seen or whatever it is, and the stuff that I use with my clients. But what the other thing is going to do is going to challenge, which I think a lot of people don't like. It's going to challenge the way that you think about things, which is good. The best learning comes from discomfort. And so what's going to do is going to allow you to have your questions answered, but also have more questions, because like I said earlier on this podcast, or I can't remember because we talked an hour before this.
I can't remember what's recorded and what's not.
I don't know at all,
to be honest with you.
When I listen to this one, when we release it, this is going to be just a mystery episode for me.
I know, this is good. Exactly. I'm going to have to listen to see what I said.
Yeah.
But no, it's like the information that I'm presenting, it's like if you are learning, that means you have more questions, but you've had things, you've had your initial questions answered. You just have more higher level questions because you understand the foundational stuff. And so, that's what I try to do with Evolve, is present you with a model that not attacking anybody's systems, but saying, hey, this is a time and a place for that system that you may be coming in with. But anyway, if you want to follow me, my Instagram is alex.effer, my last name. If you want to find out more about educational resources I provide, it's resilientrehab.com. And honestly, I just came out with this upper body program, which essentially just applies my principles to upper body. It's not going to make you super strong like Matt and Kyle are going to make you. But what it's going to do is, the intention is I programmed it for the stiffest person that I could think of that I've worked with. And mobility exercises as well as strength exercises, that the intention over the 9 weeks is to help improve mobility but strength simultaneously, which you can do. You can lift weight and improve mobility at the same time, which is the moral of the story of this whole podcast. But anyway, like that, for me, it's like that's smart programming, is if you can accomplish multiple qualities at the same time without hurting people. That's me.
I love it. And
Alex, thanks a lot we'll tag it all. Thanks a lot for joining us today. I think that was definitely one that people get a lot of use out of, for sure.
I hope so. I hope I don't get I get a lot of hate. It is what it is, but it's
you'll get hate by association with us, but that's about as far as it'll go.
I knew that coming into this song. I'm good.
Thank you, Alex.
No, thanks guys so much. Matt, it's finally great to meet you.
Yeah, finally good to meet you too.
Yeah. All right, guys.